Well, hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Ladies and Gents Listen Up. And boy, do we have a special treat for you today. But before we get started, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share this information with somebody else. There's somebody in your circle that needs to know a little bit more about business. So today, our special guest is Mr. Rufus Carpenter. How are you today, sir?
Dr. Liz, I am doing very, very well. Your smile is making me smile, so it's a great day.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Don't make me blush. We just got started. So we have been on this journey of discovering the different asset classes and why it's important to have a diverse asset portfolio as we are moving forward towards being successful. And so the reason that I wanted to have you on our show today is because you have such a dynamic methodology of doing business and how you assemble everything. And also, you have a lot to your credit. So I'm not going to introduce you. I'm going to let you talk about some of the things that are to your credit, like your book and your business institute. And, your here we go. I'm going to throw it in your court.
Okay, first I want to say thanks for having me, and I just started tuning into your podcast, and I'm so excited about what you're doing and how you're reaching the people in the masses, your community and tribe. What a blessing. But it's not so much what I'm doing. Like you said, my name is Rufus Carpenter, and my corporate office is in Tampa, Florida, but I'm here in Southwest Georgia right now. The company name is Urban Games Experience LLC. And what we are a youth and community leadership firm. And we operate in two parts. The first part is our entrepreneurship, where we have the program, and I want to say this the right way. Let's talk about the second part first before I explain that part. The second part of ours is a youth sports league. And that's our core business, working with kids from 4 to 19 years old. And we found out, and that's when I met you, as a matter of fact, doing that journey. I came to Detroit with the great idea that I was going to start a youth program in Detroit. And you and your group taught me really quick that it's not going to work. It's not going to work because I think you told me at the time youth don't have no money. That's the first part of the equation.
But hold on, wait before you throw me under the bus there. But you know what? And the thing that I want everybody to understand as we're moving through this segment in your journey is that one of the asset classes is starting an LLC. So when what you were talking about, absolutely, when I said that about, yeah, you don't have any money because we have to develop other programs to help them to have the money to be able to afford what it is that we're working on. So absolutely, I just wanted everybody to understand how this segment ties into building their asset classes, and the LLC is one of the asset classes that definitely needs to be in the portfolio. And starting young is what I tied in with you. Starting young
Correct.
in the youth and teaching them. I teach my grandchildren, and they're 9 years old and down. So absolutely, I agree.
Once again, youth don't have any money. So you taught me that my program, if I implemented my program the way I had originally conceived it, it was going to fail. So 45 days later of your teaching, your mentorship, made me realize that I had to do something first. Like you said, I had to bring money in. I couldn't depend on grants or donations, so I had to turn a nonprofit thought, a service, into a for-profit business. And that started my business journey. And there how I came about the Urban Games Experience LLC company. And with that, learning with some of the things that I took away from your group, I brought it back at that time, I brought it back to Florida. But I end up realizing that it'd be better served if I come into a community in Southwest Georgia. And that's where I'm at now, in a place called Vienna, Georgia. So I got all my structure. I did all the things I needed to do. I realized what the community need and how I implemented it. And getting started with the community was great, but then something called COVID happened. Me, like the whole world, had to do one or two things. I either had to pivot or perish. so, so I made a pivot. I took my idea and turned it into a small general store. where I began to sell COVID related items like the masks and like sanitizing. At that time, could nobody find Lysol and all that stuff. And I had a unique opportunity to get it wholesale. So I brought all that and supplied all that for the Dooley County area. And I was very successful doing that. And lo and behold, everybody wanted hair. Everybody says, hey, if you're going to be in business and you say you're going to teach business, what business are you doing? What business do you have? And that made me wonder how I'm going to teach something that I don't have, that I don't do. So we started a business of doing hair, and we opened a company, and we called that part of the company Do Season Hair. And it took off very, very well. We did very well in that space. So doing that, now coming to right now COVID is done. I think President said COVID epidemic is over in America. He said it's no more face mask mandate. So now we decided we want to go back into our core, youth and community development. Because during COVID, nobody gonna let you have their babies. During COVID, nobody was gonna do that. So now we're going back. We're gonna bring the youth program, Youth Sports League, back spring of next year, 2023. We're that April time frame where people deciding what they're gonna do for the summer. We're gonna come back with a summer camp, and it's gonna be called the Urban Games. But
Wow.
that's what I said came there for that part. Now let's talk about the other part, our BCI, Business Creation Institute. In Business Creation Institute is what we take people that want to be entrepreneurs but don't have the experience or don't have the people in their family to be able to teach them or they can glean from. So how do you become a business owner when you've never done it before? You don't have those examples that look like you. And that's how we came up with BCI. What we're saying is, look, first step, use your current job as your learning, as your classroom. Use the resources you get there and actually build your business from there. So if you do that, the first thing you got to realize is, and I think the subject you started out with this morning is, what do men think about money?
Absolutely, yes.
And when I saw that title, I said, uh-oh, she got trouble out of me. I said, man, that's like that song. When you talk about what men think about money, we could be doing this for hours and hours and hours.
I know. Well, see, this is the thing. It's something that you just touched on. You talked about business, and you talked about what I heard was mentorship, right? And so when we talk about men and money, and we talk about youth, I think that's one of the things that's unfortunately missing. Like, especially with our young men. Our young men need to understand that they can run a successful business, but if they have not had the example, or they have not, they haven't seen it in front of them, then how do we do that? So what do men think about their money? Especially like, there's a lot of, glimmer and glamour, in the street, but what is the cost for being in the street? So I love what your urban, the Urban Games?
Urban Games.
Right.
Games.
I still have this book. I looked through here, I breezed through here. I still have your first book. Was this your first book?
The first book. That was the first book. With that book, I've learned, I didn't know anything about printing, publishing. So I let someone else do it for me. I wrote the book and gave it to a publishing company, thinking that that's what you're supposed to be doing. I didn't realize that the publishing company controlled everything, and they made that book so high that the people I wrote the book for couldn't afford it. Because if you go to Amazon right now and get that book is about $50-some. Oh, wow. The average person need to be buying that book at like $13 to $14. So I got another version of that book with a different cover, but it's the same material, and it's under my name, and it's you can get it for $13 because I wanted to make that available to everybody because that book tells it all. That book tells you to start with children young, and I'm 68 years old. So your audience, from what I think of your audience, is a little younger than I am.
Well, just around the 55 mark, but you know what? So we've been tapping into the younger minds as well. So and that's my hope though. My prayer is that it touches all groups. You know what I'm saying? Right now we're in a 55, 64 is like our main audience. But we're getting some younger adults that are saying, wait, I need to understand my money. I need to understand, I think one of my passions is because, when I was growing up, we were in a 9-to-5 family, and that's what we learned. But for some reason, I had a passion and I had a burning desire to learn more about what is this about business. Can I really own a business? And so, we're getting more and more younger adults that are coming and saying, wait a minute, are there resources to help me to be able to, be able to start a business, or, can I have a business while I'm working my job? And we say yes, just like what you said. That is a perfect combination, because not only can your 9-to-5 provide you with funding if you're balancing that money correctly, funding to start your business, but it also, like you said, is an example or roadmap to how you successfully run a business. If we are not just going there working the job, but we're actually looking at the processes, the systems, the procedures, and gleaning from that. One of our conversations, we talked about, when you were transitioning from the corporate sector into the entrepreneurial, arena, all of the value and all of the things that you brought with you. One of my mentors is Dr. George Fraser. He worked for Procter & Gamble for over 40 some odd years. And he talked about that being the example, how he utilized a lot of the information and knowledge that he got from being a high level executive in Procter & Gamble to bringing that to his successful, company right now, which teach financial literacy and, asset classes and such. So, this is one other thing I wanted to mention too, before we go forward. We are starting a new channel that, myself and my partner, Coach Michael Bart Matthews, we're starting a channel about authors, and that will be released pretty soon. We're kind of still fine-tuning some things because we want to feature authors. So we definitely want to extend an invitation for you to come back and talk more about your books and more about that, because we want to support that, because we know that readers are leaders, and you have to continue to educate yourself, right? Yes. So that's where you get that. Something else that I wanted to touch on too with you and the urban game experience, and I know you said you maybe like you're kind of mentioning the Business Creation Institute, that'll be available for the youth as well, and you get them young. Man, I want some millennials in my business. Hey, calling all millennials here, right?
Yes, and that's
Go ahead. So I was talking about, you talked about like 8 different steps, and whenever I talk to our audience, I have get our dedicated notebooks out and take these notes down. Something that you gave me before I thought was really, really great was goal setting, or starting out number 1, goals. 2, goal setting. 3, that personal development. Man, that right there is huge. Principles of personal leadership. Amazing. Business operations, entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurial companies. Those 8 themes, if you just hone in on that and just start to develop in each one. This is like Stephen Covey talks about beginning with the end in mind. So knowing all of the steps and procedures and then filling them in. Like you're a prime example of being a mentor, and you can be a mentor through your books, through your, I'm sure that, and not just assuming it, but people are telling me that they're gleaning information from our podcast. You can have a mentor that you don't have to actually have hands-on. Napoleon Hill talked about that in Think and Grow Rich, right? He talked about how you can assemble some mentors together and follow their, success leads clues, follow their lead, and that's a part of your mentorship pool.
Yes. You hit the nail on the head, because I'm from a blue collar family. In my family, we could need toothpaste and take our last $2 and instead of buying toothpaste, buy beer. So that's the family I'm from. So it took a lot for me to transition out of that, because my past behavior of me and my family was such that we thought money was scarce. We thought that, hey, look, money is something that don't grow on trees. You gotta work hard and get you a job and you'll be fine. The only thing that will guarantee is that you'll always be working hard and needing a job to be fine. So
great point.
So when I looked at this, I was in the military. When I got out of the military, I had to get a job, and my background was food service. And I took a job with Long John Silver's. I shouldn't have said the name, but I took a job with the food service company, and I was had an inner city restaurant that I was the manager of. I couldn't hire the people that lived in that community that gave us their dollars, because the companies, they didn't fit the company's culture at the time. Mm-hmm. So it was like, wait a minute now, what's going on here? We're taking their money, but we can't hire them because they don't fit the culture. Something's wrong with that. And I had a problem with that. So I said, what the heck? I began hiring because they look like me. All of the people who were applying for jobs looked like me. So I started hiring them, and I caught a little flack. And yes, I had to do a little additional training. But once I realized what the real problems were, it was super easy. The people that we hired and I hired as my team became future leaders in that company. So that's where my dream for working with youth came from, because I realized our kids aren't bad kids. They're not programmed to be bad. It's just they feel there's no hope, and they feel they're so limited. A lot of them feel like the only thing I have is the streets. What else do I have is the streets? I don't have anything else. So something had to change. And I started this conversation by saying I'm a little older than most of your audience. And what I was saying is that when I came up, we had things like community talent shows and fashion shows, and had things that centered around the church. And everybody came together and performed and shared their gifts and talents. That was a wonderful time for my life. And that kind of shaped who I am today. So I said, how do we do this? How do we showcase this? How do we bring these skills and these talents and these gifts back to the day and make it relevant for the younger people? So I spent the majority of my time focusing on kids from 4 to 19 years old. What is it that they're looking for? So we decided to use sports and entertainment as a hook to get them involved. And as they progress through the program, and you did say that the 8 steps, and once they get the goal settings, personal leadership, business operation, once they learn all of that, you'll be surprised how their outlook on life change, how their potential change. Wow. And that's what we did. So we got them in that way, and we started that way, and we started doing it. And we saw some amazing scribes with children. And these children now became business people that want, hey, now they've got goals. Now they realize I can have anything I want. I can dream about it and make it happen. Absolutely. So when you talk about my program and where I came from, that made a difference for me. You know, like you were different in your family, I was different in my family. I didn't realize that. Mm-hmm. When I start looking at business world, only 18% of us in the workplace make $100,000 a year.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
54% of us make less than 50,000 or less. Right. What can you do? You know, in today's time with a family of 2, 3, 4, what can you do with 50,000? Who can you help?
Right. Right.
You know, you doing all you can to survive yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when you, go ahead.
Yeah, no. I was going to say, so bringing your programs back in, you said in the spring of 2023, you're going to bring your programs back. And yes. Are you planning on having them franchised out into different states, or are your headquarters and everything is going to just be in Georgia? That's for that population.
Well, we'll start in Georgia. First, we got to get a successful one somewhere. You got to prove the concept. And absolutely. After COVID, we got to prove the concept. We're going to prove it right here in Vienna, Georgia, which is Southwest Georgia. We're going to prove the concept here. Then we're going to grow community, state, and grow it. We're going to grow that way.
Awesome. And I'm just happy to know. Happy to know that you do have a forecast to bring it into other areas. You know, yes. Definitely. You know, I would be definitely interested in supporting that cause here in Michigan. I know in Detroit, you know, we could really use a program such as that, you know, and so what would you, again, we talked about at the beginning or at the onset, we talked about men and money. And I think we kind of went around about way to come back to it. But what are your thoughts when you talk about men and money?
Okay, Men and money. When you talk about that, once again, we could be here for hours and hours. Like that's, but to make it short, because I get carried away. I get excited when I talk about children, the community, the impact of the community, and some of the things you're doing. And as I listen to your podcast, I realize that it's so much that we have to do, even though we're doing a lot now, and you and I are just ordinary people. We don't have any special talents more than anybody else. We're ordinary people doing extraordinary things, which is great. Now, I broke it down into 3 ways now. With the youth program, the eight steps wasn't super important. That's what we do with the youth program. With the adult program, the Business Creation Institute, we take people that don't know anything about business and teach them. We do it in 3 ways. The first thing we say, seed, time, and harvest. That's the first thing we teach, seed, time, and harvest.
Okay.
If it's not enough to be a harvest, it's got to be a seed.
Okay.
And you're not going to have anything until you put something in the ground.
Absolutely.
You got to give God something to bless.
Mm-hmm.
If you working for someone in their company and God say he's going to bless whatever you put your hands to, he's going to bless the other person's company you're working for. They're going to receive your blessing. And they're gonna flourish, and they're gonna do well, and they're gonna appreciate you for it. And at the end of 30, 40 years, whatever you retire and have a great life. But you got to realize, if God's gonna bless what you put your hands to, you can still work that 9 to 5 for security, because I don't want you living out of a car like everybody else has made it successful. I don't want you living in a car. Right. I want you to go ahead and take that 9 to 5 and do well, and plant your little seed on the side. Start your business. I think you guys talk about affiliate programs. You can use affiliate programs to get money.
Yes.
There are so many things out there now that you could do. You can buy what's that thing everybody's doing now? Buying things and buying them low and selling them high.
Oh, it's like an arbitrage. It's like an arbitrage program, selling on eBay or something like that.
Yes, you can do all those things. There's so many things that you can do to start. And as you get better and better, you get big and better things.
Absolutely.
And that's the second part of this. It's called self-education. That's the second thing out of that 3 things we teach. Self-education. You have to educate yourself. Right now, college is doing well. There's like 38% of us that go to college. Mm-hmm. If 37% of us go to college, there's what, 63% of us that don't. So how are you educating yourself? It has to be self-education now. You got to find your mentor. You got to find a coach. And like you were telling me a few minutes ago, you don't have to actually sign up to be with somebody. You can glean information by following their books and following their work and stuff like that. Now people are putting so much stuff on YouTube that you can get a base right there. YouTube isn't going to give you all you need, but YouTube will give you an idea of who you need to follow. Because I think you said Dr. Frazier.
Yeah, Dr. Frazier, amazing. Yes, amazing. Dr. Frazier, again, like I said, I look and I actually didn't understand how important it was to have a coach. But you think about it, all successful people, no man is an island. I don't care what it looks like. Everybody that's successful had a coach, a mentor, somebody to pour into them, somebody to help them to, like you said, either pivot or perish. You had to get that from somewhere. And unfortunately, in our family, we inherit the education or the knowledge from generation to generation. So if you look at the result, you're still gonna get that result unless you push forward, unless you, and the thing of it is too, is to vet out the knowledge and information that somebody's passing to you and find out where it's coming from. And I talk about it in one of the podcasts where, I kept seeking, I think the one where I talk about life is a dog fight, because I was seeking and I was asking because I knew there was more. For some reason, I think about 9 or 10 years old, I knew that there had to be a better way. I saw, my parents struggling. I saw my grandparents struggling. Just, I saw the struggle, and I said, there has to be something more. It was just inside of me. But I started seeking out people to help me, and I couldn't find anybody that was willing to help. They saw what my capabilities were, but they were not willing to give me the tools that they used to be successful. Until until I started reading books of people that were even past. I started reading those books and started applying and started, I kept bumping my head, but I kept getting back up. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
Muhammad Ali that says, if you fall down, make sure you fall on your back. Because if you can look up, you can get up. I use that principle, and I kept going. And that's why I encourage our viewers to say, if you don't have that mentor, that coach within your family, then you have to go outside of it, and you have to really, really seek personal development, understanding that, it's information out there. We just have to be willing to put in the time to go and grab it and do it. When you and I had our, we met a couple of times, and, as you came here to visit, and I thank you for blessing me with your book. I'm going to show it again. With the book, with the autographed copy of your book, and then, leaving some nuggets, from corporate to entrepreneurship. So, like I said, you can be mentors and coaches one to another, but vet out the people that really have your best interest at heart. So we're gonna have to wrap up now, but this has been a wonderful conversation. I'm gonna have you back.
but you got to give me the third part, because I gave you the first two. Let me give you the third one.
Absolutely.
The third one is belief, because belief makes all the difference in the world. Because, like you said, potential. You can have all the potential in the world, and like Muhammad Ali said, you can have the potential, but it got to have the will. The will has got to be stronger than the skill and potential. You have to believe.
That's so good. Oh, that's so good. Drop the mic right there. You all don't forget, and thank you so much for your time. Time being your most valuable asset. Appreciate you, and we must have you back.
Okay. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Don't forget, everybody, like, share, and subscribe. We have some good stuff coming up on Ladies and Gents, Listen Up. Don't forget to listen, learn, and leverage the information. Bye for now, and stay fearless.